Hey, non-existent audience. I'm back. It's been a little bit. I'm still kind of getting used to my schedule uh for uh for my new job. So, uh but that's going well. So, I thought I would try streaming again because I'm sorry. I'm going all over the place here. So yeah, this isn't the a normal gameplay video. I'm doing what I did with the Nizu Sanji video where I'm talking about story ideas. So this time I'm doing Hololive because uh, I kind of had this idea for a while that I actually got more of this one done than Niji Sanji one. I even wrote a prologue, which isn't very long and it's shit, but I wrote it, so that's at least something, I think. Um, Also, this is the 70th video I made, which means last video was the 69th, which I wish I knew so I'd make an unfunny joke that no one cares about. Please stop. Jokes are so dumb. Anyways, uh, yeah, so I'm gonna be doing what I did with the Niji Sanji video. This one I came up with a while ago. It's a little all over the place, but it came up. Sorry, I got the idea from the first alternative trailer. So there's gonna be a lot of similarities. Oh, my thing peaked. There's gonna be a lot of similarities to that. Uh, but uh, but yeah. So it's gonna be the Ninja Sanji one I was talking about. En. This one's gonna be JP, Hololive JP, and Whole Stars JP because En is they're trying to hard to write a story about, especially a serious story. Maybe like a cute comedy. You can do, but it's because they're all so fucking powerful. I mean, they're like literally gods. One of them is literally fucking time. Like, how do you make a serious story where there's um any states, there's one of it makes me think of the what was it called? The one anime that came out a few seasons ago. The one where it's the girl and she kills isekai protagonist, and she meets the one girl who God, I can't remember the name, but she meets the one girl who can control time and rewind, so she can't kill her and stuff. Uh, it's kind of like I like the characters in that show, but it was impossible to feel any agency, you know, any agency to the story, and I couldn't get into it after a bit, which is a shame because I really like the characters and and there was some enjoyment in there, but yeah, and it's kind of like the same thing where it's like how do you make any states? How do you make it matter? There's gonna be because one of the story itself's bat story, like the background bat story that doesn't really go into that much. It hints at like a War of the Gods, which is like hinted to be En. But other than that, yeah, it's mainly JP. I'm not doing ID because there's already so many characters, and I wouldn't know how to fit them. And yeah, I came up with this idea when the first alternative trailer came out, which oh my god, I love that trailer. It's so fucking good. Uh, Second one was alright, but the first one was absolutely amazing. But yeah, and because of that, like, I also don't have any place to put Uproar because it came out because I got the idea before them, and I'm trying to figure out. I've been trying to figure out where the fuck to put them, but I cannot. They will be in there, but then again, I mean, who knows if I'll actually like write the story? I'm just talking about the story ideas, really, which is basically what this segment is about. Maybe one day I'll like do a stream where I'm actually writing something. I don't know whether it'll be like this or the Sanji or just something original. I don't know. But, one day hopefully I'll be able to do something like that maybe. But yeah, so So yeah, it's based off the alternative trailer, so there's gonna be a lot of overlap. So basically, it's kind of similar to the Niji Sanji idea I have, where it's a bunch of groups coming together to make a for a to for a bigger climax. Like at the very end, all the groups come together and they make a kind of like Heroes, the first season. If you watch that show, so the first season was amazing. After that, it was. But there's not going to be any like real like kind of like the flashbacks or something I was talking about in the Niji Sanji video. Oh, the cat wants out. Give me a second. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, that's gonna be the. I don't have a script or anything for this. I'm trying to put my thoughts together here. I should have like thought about this more before I streamed. But who? It doesn't fucking matter. No one's watching this. So where was I? Oh yeah. So the basic story idea is there's gonna be all these different groups, and as I said, they're gonna come together, and the main plot is gonna be there's this evil group, let's just call them that, with the main bad guy. The main bad guy wants to make everything say so, get rid of the bad people, all the impure, imperfect, and to do that, of course, it doesn't go well. He Because no one's perfect, no one's say so, and say so fucking boring anyways. But no one say so, and so like everyone gets wiped out, uh, except for Sora, and it's not because she's pure or anything like that. It was I got the idea from the trailer. Her and Roboco. I'm sorry, I'm really bad with pronouncing words, especially unfamiliar names. So I'm gonna get some of the people's names wrong. I apologize in advance. But Roboco, because it looked like they were in more of an apocalypse kind of world in the trailer, so I kind of based it around that. I'm not entirely certain how she survives. Like she was. I'm thinking like Roboco's creator, the scientist, and his lab was kind of like a. He basically made the lab to avoid uh, certain energies, which the main force of the world is the Hollow Force, which, yeah, I know, a creative name. But, and he basically, his lab is a bunker that can reflect the force or neutralize the force or whatever. So she's in his lab as a kid, and just kind of like a Marty Dr. Brown kind of thing. She comes and visits him and stuff. So she's in there when it happens. So she survives. That's what I'm thinking of going with. I kind of want to tweak it a little bit, but that's like the idea itself. Uh, yeah. So she lives. So they're in a apocalyptic world, and time goes by. She's the age she is now. And Roboco is complete and finished. And basically, the creator gives Sora this device called the Hololive, which can interact with the Hollow Force. And and basically, they use it to interact with the past. And it's not like in a way that they travel to the past. It's more like they can like go in and push people towards a certain direction. Like maybe like an example would be they would use it and they would talk to someone briefly and be like, go left, and so they go left in it, and basically there are these points where the reality and time are kind of weak, and they travel through those points and use the Hololive. And the way they know what to do is that Sora kind of gets help from the Hollow Force to tell, because the Hollow Force is going to be something that's like actually like alive, like, which I know, not dumb, but, and it's gonna like guide her uh to do what needs to be done to do the and the more, and what I'm gonna have is the more she uses the Hololive and interacts with the Hollow Force, she kind of becomes one with it. So at the very end, she like fully disappears and goes into the Hollow Force. Is what I'm thinking about going with, and becomes one with it. No, 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 that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. So the so that's the basic idea. And in the past, basically, that giant sword they showed multiple times in the trailer. So what I'm thinking is basically they live on this very large continent island thing, kind of like Australia. Let's go with that, kind of like that size maybe. And in the middle, it's like basically a circle, and in the middle is the giant sword, and it's the aftermath of the War of the Gods, which I was talking about with Ian. And the tip of the sword, like underground, it like breaks into this cavern, and the tip of the sword is destroyed and broken into a bunch of pieces. And it's said that if you collect all the pieces and complete the sword and repair it, that you are granted a wish, and that's basically what happens. The villains are trying to collect all the pieces and make the world say so, such. The and A lot of the villains are going to be original. I haven't fully fleshed them out or came up with ideas, but I want to make like relative antagonists, and then there's going to be a couple antagonists that are going to be the be some actual talents. Well, kind of. Gonna go into it a little bit later. So yeah, so basically the what I'm thinking is basically it's a fight between the gather the pieces, and there's going to be a uh I know this all sounds lame. I'm just trying to PC it, and there's going to be a organization called Cover, which it hides itself as an idol organization. Cover is a cover, haha, so hilarious puns. Yeah, I know, I'm clever. Uh, and that's the idea, and they're kind of like secret society to protect the pieces. I don't know exactly what I'm calling them, but to protect the pieces. And and it's gonna and that's what some of the talents are gonna be. Uh, so going into that, the villains, there's the main villain. And they're kind of like basically the cover knows that they're trying to pull something, that someone's going after the pieces because some of the pieces go missing, and they're trying to stop them. And then there's going to be most of the talents aren't going to be part of cover. Uh, they are just people, just kind of who end up getting wrapped up into everything. This essentially. Uh, so based on thinking, basically the members who are part of it are Susei, uh, Robaru, who isn't like the idol, but he has the bar, uh, and Astel and Akai Hato, aka Hachima, for those of you who forget that she has an actual different name. Uh, but she's actually going to be one of the villains. So she portrays Cover. Uh, of course, she's gonna redeem herself, obviously, because obviously, the villains, the the talents that are originally the villains are going to change. So basically, her backstory is that she had a sister, Hachima, and when they were really little, there was an accident and Hachima dies. They were in an accident together, and somehow Hachima's consciousness latches on to her sister, to Hado, and basically after that, everyone thinks she's insane, and everyone, you know, so her parents take her to this psychiatrist or whatever, and they use kind of like hypnosis therapy to make her forget that Hachima exists, and which basically puts Hachima to sleep. So what happens is Hachima awakens at some point, and because she doesn't remember who Hachima is, she thinks that there's like some demon in her, and so the villains, they take advantage of that, and they'll be like, "Hey, you betrayed Cover and help us. We'll get rid of her for you." And so basically, that's the idea. So Hato joins them, and I actually made it so she has like a chain whip kind of as a weapon, which I don't know. And basically, she gets some of her more obsessive fans, more loyal fans, to be her henchmen, in a sense. Though, uh, I'm actually gonna make it so one of them, her main henchman, who was someone who worked with her, like helped with her concerts and stuff. Just Cover is publicly an idol agency, and he really wants to help her. Hold on, am I getting feedback? I think I'm getting feedback. Let me pull. Let me change. Is that better? I think that's better. Anyways, so yeah, so they take advantage of that, and Hachima is of course not a demon, and well, Hachima is Hachima, obviously, but she's not a demon, and she's trying to help Hado. Oh yeah, what I was doing, like he's like loyal to her because you know he feels like his music saved her, and he actually wants to help her. Like unlike all the other henchmen who are like worshiping her, he considers himself a friend, and he's trying to, well, not really a friend, but you know what I mean. Like he's actually trying to help her, and eventually he turns on Hato because he knows that they're using her, but he still wants to help her, and he ends up actually helping Hachima in a way because Hato wants to get rid of Hachima, but he's like, I want to help you both, and Hachima helps him. So basically, yeah. So Hato thinks that Hachima's a demon when she awakens, and she thinks Hachima is out to get her because Hachima is Hachima, and Hachima is weird. Like the Hachima will cook for her sister to try and show affection and help her, and be like, I'm gonna make my sister something delicious to eat to help her, to make sure she's healthy and nutrition. But Hachima's cooking, so it ends up being like some horrendous this horrendous abomination, and she's like, she's trying to ruin my life. She's mocking me. She's Of course that's not the case. And eventually, she comes to learn what happens and who Hachima is, and she's like, they've been using me, and of course she betrays them and joins cover again. And Hachima kind of becomes kind of like a Stan in JoJo's. Is essentially what I'm thinking. The other villain talent is Polka. And I got this idea from oh, god damn it. I peeked again. Uh I got this idea from some of her tweets where she's like, Polka is everywhere, everyone's Polka. Polka is what you breathe, like. And basically the idea is that Polka is this clown who just wants chaos, who just wants to make everything a circus. And she doesn't actually care for the what the main villain is trying to do. She just knows that it's going to create chaos, so she wants to join in on that, and she's able to basically copy herself. So there's going to be like 20 plus Polkas running around, fighting the heroes. And at some point, which I'll get into a little later, one of the Polkas gets like hit in the head with one of the shards, and it kind of like affects her brain, and she kind of breaks away from the Polka consciousness and loses her memories, and she ends up being found by, and the Polkas think she's dead, and she ends up being found by Gen 5, more specifically Nene, and then she meets the other members through her, and, and she kind of just starts to enjoy life until she joins of course she ends up joining the good guys and fights the original Polka eventually, because she disagrees with her. She's like, a circus is not chaos. It is not something bad. It is something to put smiles on people's faces. And that ideology clashes with the rest of the Polkas. So yeah, she kind of becomes her own person, like the Polka that we know and love. Uh, yeah, so she ends up joining so they end up being pulled. The Gen 5 ends up being pulled into an adventure, and Lammy has ice powers, and Botan has a Botan has a huge selection of guns. Yeah, so they end up being pulled in, and the other one is Tenma. Tenma. I feel like I'm saying his name wrong. The Hollow Star Knight, because I got the idea from some people consider him like a Dark Knight or whatever. And now that I watched the Hollow Stars, uh, like little anime thing, I'm kind of like, which, because I came up with this idea before, and he's like so now I made him like a spy, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I might change it. I think I might change it. Kind of like a spy, and his he's like, I'm going to get rid of all the corrupt nobles who plagued my kingdom. Because he's from one of the countries on the continent is basically something similar to a medieval world, because there's a monarchy, but the king believes that technology is evil, so he bans it from his kingdom. So they end up living like a medieval world. And Luna's gonna be the princess of that world, and or of that kingdom. But she has she disagrees with her father, and she has like a little secret gaming cave, which I'll get into that a little bit later. Hold on, I need water. So that's the idea, because Yeah, what I'm gonna do is because Noel's gonna be a member of the Knights Order, and basically the oh yeah, I forgot. Aru-san is gonna be one of the members of Cover. His older version, not the younger version, because not only is the older version, well, like the one that was around when I came up with the idea, but because I don't like the younger version, uh, look, I prefer the older version. In all honesty, but that's going back to what I was saying. So the kingdom is was one of the people who has one of the pieces. Like it's in a like they're one of the protectors because the original king that started the kingdom. He's like, we're gonna protect the peace and whatnot. So the piece gets stolen by Tenma. However, because he's a spy, Luna actually gives the piece to Cover, more specifically Arusan. I know I'm saying his name wrong. I apologize. So Tenma brings him a fake piece, essentially, and he along with that he also uh, the elves who are a neighboring uh, country and kind of and are more like they're not really big into technology. They're kind of like generic elf, nature, trees, forests, whatnot, and they also have a piece, and that piece gets stolen. So the idea is they come together and they work, and they go send off a army to try and track down the piece, and so that's how Noel and Flair come together because and Tenma's a commander, so he doesn't end up going with them, even though he even so he's playing the villain part, and of course what happens is that he's going to wear like a mask and be the Dark Knight, and of course it's going to be a quote unquote reveal later on, and which is going to be another reveal that he's a traitor, but or spy or whatever. But yeah, so Noel joins the the caravan along with Shinon, which you see because of the alternative trailer, because you see them find Coco. And so they go on there, but there's an evil witch who's one of the antagonists who basically sets up a trap for them and basically wipes them all out and sends them. So Noel and Flair and Shinon end up together, and they go off and they're like, we're gonna continue the mission. So oh my god, my throat today, my coughing. I'm coughing a lot. Yeah, so and that's their idea, and they're gonna try to, which leads them to Coco, which leads them to a fight. Because Coco, she has a dragon den. Why does she has a dragon den with a lot of treasures and stuff, and one of the treasures is actually one of the pieces, but she doesn't realize it. It's just a shiny piece of metal to her, and of course someone steals the piece, and she's like, "Are you're the thieves? You returned to the scene of the crime." Blah blah blah, and that ends up fighting, and eventually they stop fighting, and Shinon gets hurt, which you can see in the trailer, which because Choto Sensei is living on the bottom of the living near close by, um, living close by, and I'm thinking like she's quote unquote friends with Coco, but yeah, she's a so Coco, powerful dragon, gets basically Shinon casts a spell. No, sorry, what happens? I'm getting ahead of myself. So what happens is Shinon casts a spell which puts Coco in her human form and traps her there, and which ends the fight. So that's the idea, and they end up, and they're like, "Oh, you're not the thieves. You're looking for the same people." and they end up going off together. Shinon stays with Choto because she's hurt, and with Choto is Mel and Rushia. Again, this was before Rushia's termination, but still, I want to put her in there. Who's a necromancer? Rushia's a necromancer, and she has knives, and of course, and Choto's a doctor. And it turns out that and they're gonna fight like the evil witch. She's gonna be the main antagonist for them. But so it turns out Choco actually was the one who stole the piece to protect it because she's kind of in lead with cover, and she knows people are coming after the piece, so she steals the piece, and they're like, of course, I know what some people are thinking. It's like they're and it's gonna be brought up in the story, but a dragon is probably the best person to defend a piece, and she's like, oh, do you realize how easy it was to steal it from her? I just went in while she was sleeping and just took it. So yeah, so there's that. Coco, Noelle, and Flair go off together, where they meet Watame, who is a friend of Coco. Basically, Watame is basically kind of attached herself to Coco, and they're like, and Coco doesn't fully, in the beginning, fully considers her a friend, but Watame is like, goes around with her, and of course they become closer as it goes on. And they actually meet Watame because she's in a field of acid cocoa, which is flowers that, and they're like, Coco's like, oh, the drug addled sheep is gonna be around here, and she attacks them with her harp, and funny little thing, or at least something I thought was funny. But so the idea, of course, and then as they continue on, Kanata falls from the heavens and lands nearby because she's kicked out of heaven, and I don't exactly know why yet. I haven't come up with that. I haven't figured that out. But she gets kicked down, and she also has super strength, obviously. But yeah, she gets down and she lands, and then something happens, and I'm not entirely sure what. And basically, Noelle and Flair, but basically Coco, uh, is like, it's not worth it. I don't wanna, I don't wanna be involved in this anymore. It's just a shiny piece of metal. I don't care anymore. I think maybe it's just she realized she's so weak in her human form or something like that. So I'm not 100% sure. So basically, she leaves the group, and Watami comes with her, and Kanata comes to. She's like, I have no stakes in this mission. So they all go together and whatnot. And getting back to that, and I'm trying to get no, I'll just get. Basically, they end up finding a quote unquote gang, which is the Yakuza. Her fan base, the Redditors, basically. It's just they wear like the Redditor mask, essentially, like the white mask, the note with the pointy nose. It's just that's their thing, and of course they're not like full on like gang. They're kind of like just a group of people who are just trying to fucking around and being like, and Toto ends up becoming their leader. Uh, they're also obsessed with the Kusa, which grass. So because like Toto becomes one of their members because the leader who's like old and kind of gay, well he likes laying in the Kusa, and he's like Sora's kind of speaks to him. Oh, I forgot to mention, Sora can only talk to people who are closer, who have are sensitive to the Holo Force. Anyways, so he's just laying Kusa, and he's like, the Kusa told me that someone will come and be our leader and take over, and he's they're a little crazy, but she becomes the leader, and I'm not exactly sure where they go after that, but she ends up getting involved in the whole situation later on. But yeah, I haven't fully figured that part out yet. Anyways, going back to Arusan, who, because Hato betrayed them, Hato knows that he's transforming a piece. Not like she doesn't fully know about you know the whole Luna thing or Tenma thing, but she knows that he's transforming a piece. So she goes off and tries to and she ambushes him and she tries to take the piece. And what happens is she injures him, and he's like, at the same time, Missouri, who is just kind of walking around because she got, she's late to school, and she's like, what, there's no point in going. I'm already super late. So she ends up meeting Torne and Ukayu, and they kind of become friends, and they kind of hanging out. And what I'm gonna have, of course, Torne is gonna be like a vicious fighter, and Ukayu is gonna seem lazy, but when someone attacks her, she's like easily dodges them like in a lazy manner. She doesn't like kind of like fully fight them in a way, like with strength or anything like that. But don't going on. And so Missouri ends up finding Arosan, and he's like, he's desperate. He's like, please take this piece, take it to, you know, take it to the. She says Robaru's bar's name. I actually don't fully remember the name. I apologize. But yeah, so take it to Robaru, whatever. And of course, she's going to, in the original timeline before Sora intervened, she runs away and she doesn't take it. But then Sora speaks to her and she's like, take the piece. So she ends up taking the piece out of instinct and runs away with it. And it involved, and basically, Hachima ends up chasing her, and Korone and Okayu ends up joining her. Though I haven't fully figured out why yet, because I do want them to beat the other, and then they get chased and they meet up with Susei because Susei's having a concert with Asuki and Rika, who are holodroids in this timeline. Kind of like it's like the big new hit thing. Kind of like AIs. Holodroid androids, and she's having a collaboration concert with them. So, and the Suicide's part cover, and they kind of just meet her by coincidence, because as they're running away, they sneak into a concert venue to try and blend in the crowd and get away. And so she ends up meeting Susei. So they end up meeting Susei, and they're like, and she meets up with Hachima, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Blah blah blah, and they end up fighting, and And Susei has her axe, and she ends up taking Missouri to see her boss, who is an old man that may or may not be Gaga. Just saying. Uh, and I haven't figured out why, but Missouri's like, I wanna keep going with this. Again, I haven't figured out why. Like, what's her motivation to keep going? But anyway, she joins Susei, and Susei takes her to the bar. And that's and when they're at some point when they're fighting is how Polka you know gets free. Just Missouri kind of like hits her with the piece and kind of slightly stabs her in the head, and of course Polka, and then Polka becomes Polka, and whatnot. So that's a piece. And going back to Rika and Azuki, uh, being holodroids, they don't get taken by the the wave, the Unseiso wave. Um, so they're just kind of in the venue, like just kind of performing for no one, because they don't know what else to do with themselves. They're like, we were made to perform. There's no one to perform with. Let's just perform sometimes in the venue. So they end up meeting Sora and Roboco, and they end up joining her. And the antagonists, actually, they have an antagonist themselves. It's this, what I'm thinking of, it's this robot who is like, the humans are gone. It's time for the robots to take over. And when the Hololive force, activates. Sorry, not the Hololive activates. They sense a huge power source on the scanner, and they're like, we need that power source because we're starting to shut down without the electricity or whatever, or something like that. And so they end up fighting, and and it turns out the robot leader has basically made base where the villains have made base, which is underneath the sword with the tip. So they end up fighting there, and it turns out the robot's just kind of like, he was invented by some some kind of scientist, and they're like telling him, they're like, everything happens for a reason, and talking. So when all the humans appear, he's like, they must have left for a reason, and it turns out he's really sad that they're gone, and that's where he gets his idea that robots are supposed to take over and humans are supposed to have disappeared or something like that. So they end up, and they end up fighting at the climax, and because the final point that Sora needs to go with the Hololive is the sword. So yeah, they end up going back to, and then actually no, and yeah, that's their basic idea uh, for. Let's see, where should I go next with this? Because I went over like Missouri, so I guess I go with Fubuki and Fubuki and her group. And Fubuki, and I actually haven't fully read the the little manga thing, which I need to go and do. I watched part of it, and you know, or sorry, I read part of it, and then just it comes out sparingly, and some new pages have come out that I haven't read. So basically, she lives on this special little mountain, and she guards a piece in the on the mountain because it's like a shrine and stuff. And Mio's with her, and I made it so does Fubuki has their sword. I made it so Mio has also kind of a blade too, not a sword. I think of it like Edward Elritz from Full Metal Alchemist, wrist blade that he makes. It's kind of a weapon like that. So and then Ayumi finds them, which I haven't figured out. Just I don't know, and they fight, and I don't know exactly why yet. And I kind of hoping the manga thing will give me an idea for why. And also, the mountain is a special place that you can only go to if you already know it exists or you're invited or something like that. At least that's what I'm going with. Uh, Something like that. Like not exactly. I'm not explaining it very well, but something like that. And so I haven't figured out how she figured out where it is. So basically, at the same time, no, actually, no, I don't. There's like a spell on it that like kind of confuses people, I guess. And but yeah, so basically, and then they end up, coming up, fixing their differences and whatever. And Mio kind of takes a mother role to Ayumi because she's actually a lot younger than, because she's like, her lore supposedly she's a student council president of her high school or something like that, which is dumb. I'll admit. So she's younger than she appears. She's really young, and she ends up kind of. Oh, that reminds me. About Subaru. I'll get into that later. So yeah, they kind of end up together, and Oga's there because Oga has been basically. I took the idea about it being Fubuki's maid from the joke from that that joke and that one stream, and so basically Oga's backstory is that it is like his normal backstory. He's been fighting in some dimension for like 300 years, and then he's sick of it. He doesn't want to fight anymore, and he kind of comes to here, and he ends up by chance meeting Fubuki, who kind of like helps him and gives him a purpose, and she basically kind of brings him to her manor shrine thing, and he basically becomes like quote unquote maid, which he takes the job seriously, which it's funny. Which speaking of maid, Aqua is there. So what happens is Aqua is clumsy and whatnot, and you know she gets fired from her maid job. So she's kind of walking down the bottom of the mountain, And then Sora speaks to her and it's like, go left, go up the stairs. And she's like, what stairs? And then she sees stairs, she goes up, and they're like, how did you find this place? And basically, kind of, Oda kind of takes her under his wing and she's like, I'm going to teach you how to be a proper maid. And I don't know, which I'm getting to. So, yeah, there's all that. And then at some point, the Potas show up. And I'm kind of thinking maybe them tricking Aqua into telling them where to go, which I know your people are like, well, how did they find it if Aqua would have originally walked past without Sora? They would have found out another way, but they would have got it. It would have been a different way, but they still would have got it one way or the other. And or maybe I won't do that. I don't know. But at some point they come in and they attack and it's unexpected. They aren't expecting it, and the Potas are very good at fighting and very good at clowning around. So they end up stealing the piece, and they're like, we gotta go after them and track them down. So Fubuki, Mio, and Ayumi go to do that, and Oga stays behind because he's injured, and Aqua stays behind because she's Aqua. And basically, what ends up happening in the future time with Sora and stuff is they end up going to the mountain because that's one of the spots, and they meet Oga, who was protected by the mountain's magic from the wave. And I don't know. And I assume Aqua was probably like on the bottom of the mountain or something like that. So basically, he stays behind. He stays behind. He's like, I regret never going after them. I regret not going with them. I regret it. And basically, Sora uses her Hollow Force, and it's like, then go with them. And that basically affects the past Oga, who's like, I gotta go after them. So he takes Aqua, and they run down the mountain, where I'm not sure how, but they meet Aru-san, who has been taken prisoner by the Hatans at some point. Hatans, which I don't know how they're gonna do that. And they eventually meet Astel, uh, with his guns, and then does he has like he's like Bolton, he has this collection of guns and stuff, which Aqua surprisingly becomes very good at, and she ends up joining, and they go on their little adventure to try and find Fubuki's to meet up with Fubuki's group. And actually, I'm not sure if Astel is going to be part of cover or not, but they'll find Fubuki's group and retrieve one of the pieces. And Arusan wants to find the girl he gave the piece to, and he's like, I shouldn't have given her the piece. It was a moment of weakness. I was desperate. Now she's involved in this, and I don't want her to get hurt. And they're kind of like just traveling together, going on their own adventure, essentially. Which, and of course, everyone meets up eventually. And and that's the idea. And then Fubuki's group goes off, and they end up meeting Pota's group. And they're like, this is the person who stole our thing. And Pota doesn't remember any of this, and because and they end up fighting and stuff, and then it's this whole group thing, and then they stop fighting because they're like, this isn't the same. Because Pota ends up like saving some kid's life or something like that, and they're like, I guess this isn't the same person or whatever, and which ends up leading Pota and her group to go on an adventure to find the other Potas and find out about her past. Because not only that, but they also see like another Pota like on like a news station or something like in the background or something like that. That's what I'm going with, something like that. And they go on a journey to try and find the other Potas and figure out what's going on with their lives, which is how they come together with the rest of the groups at the end. Now, and then I mentioned Subaru a bit. Basically, Subaru is basically a coach at like a high school or something, or maybe like a coach or like middle school or elementary school or something. Actually, I think elementary school. And she she wants to be an idol, and she's applied to that's her dream, and she's applied to like idol groups, and it's not hasn't gone well, and and then she ends up. I'm not 100% sure what I want to do, but she ends up meeting Suse and getting like kind of dragged in with them for a bit. I don't know if she stays with them or if it's just temporary, and then she ends up kind of interacting with other groups or something. I'm not 100% sure, but that's I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with her. But that's basically her story. She gets involved with some group. I'm thinking Suse's, and then go and then the other group, uh, which is Miku and Petora. Just you see them in the trailer, especially at the end where they were especially where they're together in the casino. So basically, what happens is Petora is being Petora, and she gets banished from her home, her Petro land, and she's like, does her whole I think she's supposed to be a princess otherwise. Don't think I'm gonna do that. And her entire thing is she wants to make money, and it's because she wants to help her petrol mama, but she never like fully admits it. That's her motivation. So she ends up, going being banished for I don't think it's permanently. I think it's maybe like you're banished for like 5 years or 10 years or something for your antics or whatever. So she ends up being banished. She ends up going on a trip, where she meets Miku, who was thrown out of her shrine, even though she technically owns the shrine and was the shrine leader, because what she did was she took the offerings and gambled them away. So she ends up thrown out, and they end up meeting together, and the city they're in is kind of like Las Vegas kind of way. There's like a big casino, there's a lot of casinos and a big casino, and they end up going to casinos and whatnot. And what ends up happening is they're at a casino, and one of the casino heads is the bad guy, is part of the bad guys, and basically they have this map or something that will lead someone to one of the pieces of the sword. And what happens is, you know, Miku is spoken to by Sora, and they're like, take the piece. And Miku just, again, instantly takes the piece, or not the piece, the map, and they end up they're running together, and they end up coming into Robaru's bar, the hide, and which kind of connects them to him. And he's like, this is a map. And they end up following the map, I guess, because it could lead to treasure, but it actually leads to. And he's like, I have a friend that can help you, which is Shin, who is a leader of a gang, the mafia, whatever. But of course, it's not like an actual mafia. You know what I mean? So he's like, my friend will help you. Like they'll uh like the idea. The cat's opening the door. Give me a second. Sorry about that. So the idea is, it's like they'll protect you till you reach the shipyard, you know, or whatever the ship point, where they will meet Marine, needs who is a quote unquote pirate. You know what I mean. She's dreams of being a pirate, but she's not actually. So because they don't have enough money to hire anyone else, they end up choosing her. And of course, Marine doesn't have a crew, so she ends up roping Xian and his group into being her. Hold on, I need water. Into being her crew. So they get kind of roped into this, and they all go on an adventure. And yeah, so they all go on an adventure to this map where they think it's treasure, but it's actually, the shard. And I'm thinking, just Xian's lore is that he's looking for his long lost friend, and maybe I'm thinking the friend ends up being an antagonist because he's like, the mafia is a joke. We were supposed to, like, it's not even a real mafia, and he ends up being basically betrayed by his friend, and he's the antagonist for them. That's one idea I'm coming with, but I don't think I'm gonna do it. Uh, and I'm thinking living on the island is God. His name I actually cannot. The redhead haired guy, the shrine guy at in Hollow Stars. Oh my God, I cannot pronounce his name. I feel so bad. At least that's the idea. I'm not sure because I'm not 100% sure what to do with him. He's like one of the people that I have no idea what to do with. Uh, Similar with Astel. Like I kind of like I know I want him to join Oda's group, but I don't know what his motivation or backstory is gonna be. I mean, he's obviously an alien, obviously, but uh, that's kind of the idea. I'm not 100% sure. So that's their part of the story. Now going into Holowets. So Holowets is a secret society bent on world domination, quote unquote. And the other cat is trying to open the door, I think. Or maybe the door's just creaking, I don't know. The door creaks sometimes, just randomly. I don't know why. Anyways, what are you looking at, cat? Just gonna stare at me? Oh, now you're shutting your eyes, huh? Okay. Uh, Sorry, the cat's like on my bed, just staring at me. Uh, where was I? Yeah, so Hollows, of course, they're not, they're a joke, obviously. They're not, like, actual, you know, real group. And they get involved because, which I haven't fully figured out their backstories, like, individual backstories, but they end up coming together to form a group of basically just friends. And they're, and the main thing is Lapis, because she's supposed to be this, because obviously those rings around her neck and her hands, they're supposed to, and the crow, they're like, the lore wise, it's supposed to like, it's like the bind her powers or whatever. So the idea is in the War of the Gods, she was the antagonist. She was, and of course she was like a big, no, sorry, not big, a tall One-san, like goddess kind of individual, not the short little cute Kusagaki that she is now. But she ends up being sealed away, and she becomes the Lapis we know, and the crow is given to her to try and keep the shackles on her, and because of the shackles she loses all her memories, and she ends up being picked up. She goes to sleep for a while, and then she ends up awakening, and then she gets picked up by a human family, or maybe human but mortal family, and they kind of take care of her and they kind of take her in, and they become her family, and a loving family kind of, and why did I say kind of, a loving family, and which that's her backstory, and then she kind of ends up, and she has the crow that follows her. I forget its name. I'll admit. I have a lot of this written down, and I like the names and stuff, and I probably could have looked at it before I started this, but I didn't because I'm lazy. Uh, but continuing on. So they get involved because they're a little group of friends that are kind of like, oh, we're gonna take over the world, but not really. Kind of, no one really takes it seriously, and they're kind of loyal to Lapis. Just Laplace is basically, despite her belief that she's their evil society, she's a very kind girl, and she kind of saved these people in a way. Not like story wise, like emotionally. And so the reason they get involved is one of the things that keeps Lapis's collar working is a piece of the sword, and that's what keeps um her abilities in check, and that's what powers her collar and her shackles and whatnot. So of course, the bad guys come after her because they want to take the piece of the piece that's inside her collar and whatever. And of course, she doesn't know any of this because she doesn't remember anything. And they end up all fighting and being involved. And Lapis inevitably gets kidnapped near, and they kind of, in the beginning, it's not that she doesn't get kidnapped. They try and kidnap her and they're trying to protect her, but and then she does eventually get kidnapped. And they follow her and they reach the bad guy's base. And what I'm thinking of, what I'm gonna do is it's kind of like this cute moment where they take the piece out of the collar, but and Lapis's kind of powers emerge, but she doesn't become the evil, powerful being that she was. She kind of does lose control a bit, and she becomes a little violent. And the other members are kind of fighting her, but they're trying to kind of like calm her down and hold her down and keep her. And even the crow is trying to help her because despite the crow's job, it kind of became like attached to Lapis because Lapis is not the same person that. And what I'm gonna have this this is like a moment I kind of like have, and I think it's really cute. So Lapis is kind of like in a fog in her mind, and she meets the old Lapis, and and the old Lapis is trying to convince the new Lapis to give in to, and the people around her aren't actually her friends and whatnot, and to let her free. And of course, Lapis eventually. Sorry, I deeply apologize. The My mom came in for a second. Of course, I missed the mute button, and I just kind of like shushed her out, and then we were kind of talking for a bit. As my brother is actually his band thing is going to Disneyland actually for the school band, and he's going to play there for. He's gonna be gone for like a week, so he's gonna play. So they're up early to see him off. So I'm gonna end this a little soon. Soon. Well, the end. I was getting close to the end, anyways. But um, yeah, that was that. I apologize. But yeah, and then she hears her friends, and she's like, "No, I'm gonna go." And then it kind of turns out that the old Lapis just, despite trying to trying to convince her to let her go. She's happy for her. She's like she's like you fool while like smiling or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. It seemed like a cute idea to me, and personally, that's why I was. I don't know. I'm kind of going all over the place. But yeah, I'm trying to. Did I forget anyone? I mean, oh yeah, I guess to add on to that, to something Luna, she's actually she's baby princess thing, but she's actually like a capable leader, and she's kind of weak physically. It's really weird because she fights, she like gets into a fight and she's really good, but after the fight she like her body kind of shuts down and she's like, I'm tired, Nora, or whatever, and she can't move, and it's just I don't know. That's just a miscellaneous thing that I kind of didn't mention. I'm trying to think. Did I forget anyone? I feel like I might have forgot something. Oh well. Well, yeah. So that should be it. Hopefully my mom didn't get picked up very much. I apologize again. But yeah. So that's. I think I'll end it there. I'm not 100. I feel like I'm forgetting something. But we'll see. So if I do remember something, maybe I'll mention it in my next stream, which I'm planning on doing tomorrow. But anyways, so yeah, that should be it. So thanks for watching. I like doing this kind of content. I kind of want to do this content more. I just don't know how to go about it per se. Because a lot of the ideas I have involving stuff like this involves audience participation, and of course my audience is non-existent. So, uh, but yeah, so that's the basic idea I have, and I'm gonna try and do this stuff kind of more. At least figure out what to do. But anyways, so I'm gonna end it here. Thanks for watching.